Hello everybody, it's Father Richard Gonzalez here. This past Sunday we celebrated the third Sunday of Ordinary Time. And as we see in the context of the celebration of the Mass regarding the readings, we see the development of the theme of discipleship. So I use this actually as an opportunity in my homily over the weekend to share just a little bit of my own personal vocation story, to share just a little bit of my road to the priesthood. And I also decided to share that same homily with you through this video. And hopefully it can be a sense of encouragement for someone who just may be discerning a vocation to the consecrated life, to the religious life, or to the priesthood. But before we begin, and before I forget, just one more thing. If you enjoyed this YouTube video, consider giving it a thumbs up like, subscribing to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and hitting the notification bell and the all tab so you are notified of all future videos on my YouTube channel. So yes, in the context of this homily, I share just a little bit of my own personal journey to the priesthood. So here we go. I once read an article in a Catholic news site in which the writer told a story about a college student who the writer thought might have a vocation to the priesthood. He talked to the young man and asked whether he had ever considered becoming a priest. When the young man said no, the writer asked why. The young man's simple answer was, well, nobody ever asked me if I ever thought about becoming a priest. So after that, the young man began to explore the idea of the priesthood, and through much prayer and what we call discernment, he eventually became a priest of a religious order. Well, this story, and many very similar to it that I personally have heard from vocation directors and other priests, show how important it really is to invite young people to consider, to at least think of a vocation beyond every Catholic's baptismal promises, to follow Jesus Christ and to proclaim his gospel and the manner of our life and faith. It is up to all of us to nurture vocations by encouraging young people to consider ordained ministry and the consecrated life, such as the life of a religious brother or sister. And giving a young person this kind of encouragement will certainly help them to see themselves in a different light. For at times, a person feels that he or she is, quote, not worthy or good enough to become a priest or a religious brother or sister. For some reason, these young people think that someone has to be, quote, perfect, or that only holy people, whatever that means, are called to religious life. We see, my friends, it's not a matter of a person's, quote, worthiness or unworthiness. It is a matter of God's call for all of us. And to be honest, I have an idea as to what that young man in that article online was experiencing when he was asked about the priesthood. You see, in the latter part of my own high school years at Carroll High School in Corpus Christi, Texas, I thought that I wanted to be a teacher in some city far away from Corpus Christi. And shortly after I enrolled in my first semester at Del Mar College, the community college in Corpus Christi, friends and parishioners from my own home parish of St. Patrick's began to ask if I had ever thought of becoming a priest. Well, truly, the priesthood was not a consideration in my vision for my life. Priesthood was not a part of my personal roadmap of my life. And even though I was a member of the St. Patrick's youth group, I was a reader for the weekend masses, I was a member of the young adult group, and I was a sponsor of the junior high youth group, but the priesthood, frankly, no way, Jose. But after talking with friends, I began to think about the priesthood, prayed about it, and explored my own questions in a vocational support group. And after some time, I formally entered the seminary and began my undergraduate studies at the Pontifical College Josephinum in Columbus, Ohio. After college graduation, I entered my graduate studies at St. Mary's Seminary in Houston. And I have been a priest for almost 23 years, and actually this coming Sunday, January 31st, will be my 23rd anniversary to the priesthood. And I have been the pastor of St. Joseph's in Beeville, Texas for 9.5 years. So including the time in seminary, coupled with the time in seminary, the past 30 years have truly been wonderful, challenging, invigorating, humbling, and overall a real blessing. I am truly thankful for where the Lord has guided me. My friends, all of us can and should pray for vocations to the priesthood and the religious life. But honestly, that is not enough. Vocations must be explained. Vocations must be promoted. Two important places where this happens are the family and the parish. Parents, teachers, and every Catholic share in the responsibility to encourage young men and women to at least think about the possibility that God might be calling them to give their lives to Jesus and to the building of the kingdom of God in this way. In the Gospel passage from St. Mark from the third Sunday of Ordinary Time, we begin to see that of all the people Jesus encountered, he called particular men, certain men, to assist him in being what I call co-shepherds in the vineyard. Since it is God who calls weak and flawed men to the priesthood, we must realize no one has to be, quote, perfect to be a priest. For it is God's perfection that will shine in our vocation, not our own selves. And at the same time, we absolutely need courageous men who are striving for virtue, who are burning with the desire to bring God's love to others. In the past, many children had priests and religious brothers and sisters as their own teachers in their parochial schools and religious education classes. And I certainly remember those days. And so the children were somewhat familiar with the vocation of their teachers. They also knew the parish priest better. And many parishes had more than one priest who shared pastoral duties and had more time to talk with parishioners. These priests and religious sisters and brothers provided role models. Today, unfortunately, many of our young people have little or no idea about the life and the ministry of priests and members of religious communities. But my brothers and sisters, one thing each of us in our parishes might do is to be aware of the potential vocations among the young people in our community around us. If we notice young women or men who participate in the Mass regularly, are service-oriented, strongly involved in parish life, and have the qualities of a priest or religious sister or brother, sharing your observations with them can make a big difference in that young person's life. For it is possible that they have already thought about a religious vocation, and your comments, your guidance might inspire them and help them in their discernment. And lastly, in his message for the 55th World Day of Prayer for Vocations, Pope Francis said, "Today, the Lord continues to call others to follow him. We should not wait to be perfect in order to respond with our generous yes, nor to be fearful of our limitations and sins, but instead to open our hearts to the voice of the Lord, to listen to that voice, to discern our personal mission in the church and the world, and at last to live it in the today that God gives us." Wow, what an inspiring quote. So my brothers and sisters, in your own journey of faith, in your own journey of life, in your journey of discernment, may God continue to bless you today, tomorrow, and always. And I'll see you real soon.